The current wrong narrative about Kurds wanting a single-state nation, a media distraction iconography from the social political practice and proposal in Rojava. This topic was presented in the Heritage Geographies conference held by the University of Salento, Lecce, Italy, within the session Heritage and Nationalism on 27 May 2021. A Kurdish adage says, "We have no friends but the mountains." The map shows in blue the area inhabited by a majority of Arabs, in yellow by Kurds. This on January 2018. In yellow, the area of Rojava, which means west in Kurdish, but the official self-determined name of the political area is AANES, Autonomous Administration of North and East of Syria. Turkey invaded Syria 3 times, specifically against the Kurdish armed forces. In 2016, for blocking the victorious against the Daesh expansion toward the Kurdish canton of Afrin. In the 2018, for occupying the Afrin canton. In 2019, in the north of Rojava, for trying to control the central part of the M4 highway. Changing the social political structure of a human group is a difficult task. To change iconographies and consolidated ways of life takes time for contrasting the so-called Brodelian longue durée of the lifestyle. It seems that today it isn't time for social political revolutions, at least watching the mass media narratives and IR debates. Still a problem for the West? The Rojava AANES experience is really revolutionary both in practice and within their idealistic aims. An exaggerated idea of typical Western freedom and of typical Western social relations. So exaggerated that perhaps for this reason Western media and speeches debates by the international relation expert prefer to represent Kurds only as a typical Western nationalist and capable fighters. Not to mention as enemies the political institution and the social lifestyle in the Middle East. I want to remember what Article 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, and in particular, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration. And furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. Thus, as a logic consequence, in my opinion, the issue of an UN passport valid everywhere, UN member states and territories of the world. Let's see the synthesis of how the Kurds were represented in the past by voyagers, geographers, diplomats, etc. A recognized human group by a proper language and by religion even if with many internal religious and also linguistic differentiations. It is also recognized a strong sense of familial clan relation, but with individual skill of independence, able to fight and self-confident. And I want to stress that this description stressed that Kurd women were more free than other Muslim women. A tribe is a community or a federation of communities which exist for the protection of its members against external aggression and for the maintenance of the old racial customs and standards of life. It is a small world, inward-looking, an organism of defense, a traditional and conservative institution. But the Rojava is a leftist ideology, and this leftist ideology, undergirding a Kurdish national group-making project, was revolutionary and radical, both in relation to the dominant states that this national organization resisted against, but also within the Kurdish communities. Are Kurds all the same? Bakur means north in Kurdish, and it is Turkey. Rojava means west, and it is Syria. Bashur means south, and it is Iraq. Rojelat means east, and it is Iran. They have few but significant differences within a common language. What I want to stress is that the cultural and linguistic differences could support a single nation aspiration, or also a federation of Kurdish areas, or also independent autonomies with friendly relations. The process of group making gives relevance to symbols, codes, iconographies, and events. So we need to attend to how things are framed and coded. Group making also involves contested symbols and interpretation that are imposed upon categories and events. So also unpredictable events like the Kurd defensive, then offensive war against Daesh, which allowed to start the experience of Rojava. The leader of the PKK party, Abdullah Öcalan, initially adopted the Marxist approach as the better way to organize since 1978 the resistance, also armed since 1984 against the Turkish repression. But between 2005 and 2011, Öcalan took inspiration from the anarchist Maray Bookchin and his proposals, municipal confederalism and ecological approach. So, from the prison, he launched a new political proposal, democratic confederalism. These are not new Western ideals, but not yet fulfilled in the West. There were only a few of attempts in the past, but always suffocated in blood. Democratic confederalism iconographies are bottom-up democracy, ecology, feminism. These iconographies are an impressive break with many elements of the Kurdish cultural heritage as depicted in the past, and with the Arabic and Kurdish current lifestyle. Quoting from an interview of Engin Sustam in 2016, The outcome of all these influences is the need to rebuild a pluralistic democratic society, a shared neighborhood, an alternative microeconomy centered on social and humanitarian benefits, on environment and women's emancipation in order to prevent an individualistic or state-controlled model. Usually a recognizable human group as traditional nationalistic geopolitical claims. About language claims, specific language should be dominant in the ordinary and administrative life. About religion claims, religion should be the official one and the or one of the sources of the law justice, dictating also the correct social behaviors. The familial clan relations, traditional patriarchal and male hierarchic relations, are considered as a valid social structure for the maintaining of the stability and the order within the society and the transmissions of the tradition. And about individual skill of independence, usually are considered as typical male characteristics. The Iraqi Kurdistan thus represents itself along the traditional iconographies of a nation: the flag, the territory, the borders, the name, and also some symbolic imaging, very traditional, a young woman with a flag on a white horse. What is very particular is the modern road in the back. The Peshmerga in the Iraqi Kurdistan are one of the iconographies with the recognized presence of fighting women. And actually, these photos taken in a photograph studios in the 70s shows that are the women wearing the weapon. And if I quote Reclus in Nouvelle Géographie Universelle 1884, women are braves like the men in taking the weapons if needed. Part of those traditional characteristics are rooted in the human instincts, but the social form of them can be put into practice in different ways, in many different ways. The Rojava AANES example is as follows. About language claims, Kurdish is not the only official language in Rojava. The dominant language depends on the local practical use by the majority of the people. Kurdish and Arabic are the language of the public administration, only by use and not as official one. About religion claims, there's no official religion, and religion is not the source of law, justice, and of social behaviors, which are adopted by only according to the individual choice. About the familial clan relation, Rojava is a system that rejects the nation, patriarchy, positivist scientism, hegemony, state administration, capitalism with Fordist or post-Fordist industrialism, and is the place of a democratic autonomy of a social and alternative economy in the cantons. And about individual skill and independence, there is also a project carried to ensure that school education becomes a right, and it includes a vision of gender and class equality while rejecting the centralized model based on section specialism. What is really important is the geopolitical aspect of the proposal, to be not national, explicitly against nationalism and superborder. But what is perhaps more relevant is if and how long the heritage, i.e. the traditional ordinary life and self-representation of the Kurds, as well as the one of the Arabs, Assyrians, Yazidis, Turkmen, etc., resists the new iconographies that the experience of Rojava AANES in the northeast of Syria is trying to practice. I like to quote Abdullah Öcalan about gender equality and freedom. The extent to which society can be truly transformed is determined by the extent of the transformation attained by women. Similarly, the level of women's freedom and equality determines the freedom of equality of all sections of society. All the public officials and also people of the Kurdish army and the internal security force are trained according to the gender equality. How to self-defense can work without hierarchy, control and domination, focusing on ideological education, half of which is based on gender equality. And it is compulsory to require co-chairs where a woman and a man lead the parties together. Here are examples of ordinary women and Azaish, i.e. Internal Security Force, female units. The women carry the weapons. If they wear the veil or not, it is not important. You can see here examples of iconographies of the propaganda or also of the represented symbolic space, full of slogan or symbolic representation. Are these slogans and symbols of the weaker sex? There are no marginal roles in politics for the women. The only ones wearing battle dress very often during the reunion or meetings. You can see on the left women in battle dress and males with ties. And during a meeting with the former French President Hollande, only women wear battle dress. Now I want to underline exactly how the AANES organization works. The political, social and administrative structure of Rojava AANES is currently unique in the world. The society, i.e. the set of all individuals, is represented by 4 subjects: parties, cooperative, civil institution, municipalities, trade unions and civil society or association. For all, the principle is self-management and the direct solution of organizational and practical problems in the area. Parties, trade unions and associations support themselves economically as well as cooperative institutions which, however, can receive administration funds for targeted projects. The municipalities have their own sources, taxes and tariffs for examples, but also funds from the administration on projects. The economy is not collectivized, but is taxed in various ways, mainly tariffs. The administration manages and/or controls some economic sectors, i.e. partially the extraction and sale of oils. The AANES, Autonomous Administration of North and East of Syria, manages the confederal system and the basic services. Political parties and organizations elect the delegates to the Syrian Democratic Council, which confronts and sends feedback to AANES. The trade unions and civil organizations elect their delegates in the local institution on the TEV-DEM, i.e. the grouping of the current majoritarian political groups and movements, which observes and intervenes in the councils and observes and intervenes in the regional assemblies. Local institutions elect delegates to the General TEV-DEM, which is the umbrella organization of the civil society. It compares and sends feedback to AANES. The cooperative civil institutions elect committees that intervene in the councils, in the regional assemblies, and in the AANES. Finally, the municipalities, divided if necessary into neighborhoods areas from 500 to 1,500 inhabitants, elect delegates to the councils for the management of the neighborhood, sub-district, district, canton, who in turn elect delegates in the regional councils, which elect delegates in AANES. As the level rises, management skills decrease and those of general political direction increase. The principles of democracy from below, feminism, ecology, cannot be questioned. They are like constitutional articles. There is also an all-women elected council that has veto power over the AANES decision. Rojava AANES tried to be out of the ordered anarchist system, the so-called ordered and anarchist system of the nation states, not claiming the independence from Syria and not willing to change the border. While the common practice by the hegemonic and by the wannabe having-a-role states is to force the situation with small acts of force, not so dangerous to provoke an escalation, but sufficient for gaining advantages or for supporting the mass media war of official declaration. Within this context, which one geopolitical active state could be willing to support AANES in principle and whatever it takes? Maybe absolute monarchies like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates and Qatar? Maybe electoral theocracy like Iran? Perhaps authoritarian illiberal democracies like Turkey, Egypt or Russia? Perhaps authoritarian regime like China? Maybe formal democracy with internal problems of cohesion like Iraq and also Iraqi Kurdistan? It should be Western parliamentary democracy, USA, UK and France, and probably also the European Union. But as I said before, the social, political, economic proposal of Rojava is too extreme even for the West. mentally caged within the nation-state iconography, alla Jean Godman, the French geographer of the 15th and 60s. Furthermore, if the mass media narratives are like this, with a lot of iconographic mistakes, you can see the flag on the left is the one of Daesh. The video is old, but Fox News want to stress there are US-backed forces. And here CNN still use the term US-backed forces, but never used the term Kurds or Arab Kurds forces, and the flag on the map on the left is the one of the Iraqi Kurdistan and not the one of Rojava. So, if I have to conclude, the experience of Rojava AANES is too extreme also for the West. Thus, our friends are still only the mountains. Thanks for your attention.